Evening. Welcome to a Tuesday night edition, starting a little bit late. Waiting on a little result to talk about here tonight. Big night for Gator fans. Coming up in a few moments, we'll have Scott Carter from FloridaGators.com. Spring football practice starting this week. Our friend from SEC Sidelines will join us, Rob Browne. We'll talk about, among other things, a new show we're working on about SECU, along with Brendan Martin. And Coach Loren Meadows is here tonight. Ordinarily, we'd had David Whitley, but he was tied up tonight, so we won't have him. But stay tuned and join us. There'll be some talking about tonight, talking about wins, and a big one coming up for the Gator basketball team. So stay right here. Keep it right here. We hope to have a check-in from our buddy Franz Beard at courtside. All that happening on the Buddy Martin Show right here, right now. Tell your friends and neighbors we are on the air right now.
Time again for Buddy Martin. Call him up and tell him what you're thinking. But be kind because he's doing the best he can.
Better, stronger, faster.
Mama says that alligators are ornery because they got all them teeth but no toothbrush.
Hey, what if the voice calls while you're gone?
Take a message.
Bye!
You ready, champ?
I've been ready for this my whole life.
I'm incapable of small talk. But that's why you love me, right?
Kind of intimidating to be in the presence of so many great athletes.
Evening, welcome to the program. I'm Buddy Martin. The program is heard 4 nights a week, sometimes more. And you'll catch me on Shane Matthews' Pot Up every Tuesday morning as well. We were delayed tonight, waiting for the result from Exact Tech Arena. We'll have it in a moment. It'll be a good one. If you haven't heard, I won't spoil it. I'll give you a spoiler alert. It raises the question, as I said in my opening, if there's something to feed off of, like a basketball team going to the Sweet 16, whatever, having a good run in March, how much can that help other programs, like, for instance, Billy Napier? We'll talk about that tonight. We'll say good evening to Michael Burton and David Baldoff and Robert Turner, all my guys checking in tonight. Thank you for that. Toby Parmado is always here. And stay tuned because we got a couple of guests coming up in just a minute you want to hear about. And we'll save the hoop talk till a little bit later. Don't know if you heard about it. You probably have. The so-called controversy we talked about on the show yesterday, or earlier the week, yesterday, about Coach Spurrier, his comments. For some reason, those comments have permeated, shall we say, a lot of people's thoughts. I've talked to Coach Spurrier more times in recent 2 days. I've talked to him in a week. He had lots to say about that. Here's a guy who has lots to say. We'll go right to the Orange and Blue Room where he's taking a break from. We won't even give away the score because it would be a spoiler alert, but our friend Scott Carter joins us tonight. Hello, Scott. How you doing?
Hey, buddy. Sorry about that, man. I got wrapped up in the game and realized I forgot what time it was.
We're not going to give a spoiler. We don't want to give it away, so there'll be a spoiler alert, so we'll just let that hang for a minute. I see I've got my TV on the background here so people will know. It's okay. But while we're waiting, I wanted to weigh in with, thanks for joining the program, Scott. Appreciate it. You can read it, FloridaGators.com. You probably, maybe you weren't aware of the fact that Coach Spurrier's comments about his views on the football program kind of struck a chord with a few people this week. I have had more conversations with him in the last 2 days than I've had in probably 2 months. But he was concerned about how it might have sounded and tried to clarify it on the show last night. In fact, if I have time, I'll play this little bite from him from yesterday. But, he's got he's caught because he's a guy who gives you his opinion, no matter, and he's a guy who not going to blow smoke when something's not. He's not going to make it sound better than it is. So he also is the ambassador for the University of Florida. He's paid to be so. So it's interesting to see his take on it. And I've talked to a number of his friends about how difficult it might be for him. I know you probably heard about it. If you have, what have you heard about it, and what's your take?
Yeah, I mean, I did read the comments from the Florida Times Union, and I mean, I didn't have an overly reaction because I know Spurrier and what he's about, like you just said. He's always been the same guy, buddy, right?
Yes.
Since he's always been that same guy. He's gonna give his opinion, but also know, man, I don't know if I've ever met anybody who cares about the University of Florida and the Gators as much as Steve Spurrier. So there's never any doubt where his loyalty is. But in today's world, everything is out there and everything is analyzed and overanalyzed. And so, I wasn't surprised by some of the reaction from it. I think there's probably two camps. It's like, you know what? Spurs agreeing with what I'm seeing. I mean, I'm glad he said it, And then the other camps could be like, well, what's he kind of talking about the Gators that way for? He's supposed to help us, So I get both sides, and I just know that's him, and that's why we love him so much, because he's unfiltered. And if you're going to be that way, you're going to catch some heat sometimes. And when I really look at what he said, I mean, I think we understand what he was saying. I mean, the game has changed a lot in the last 9 years since he got out. The whole dynamic of a staff has changed. I mean, it still takes your coaches and your assistant coaches, but now every assistant coach has an assistant, buddy.
Yeah,
and now there's a scouting department and there's a personnel department. So it's just a lot of moving parts that he necessarily didn't have to deal with. And if he was still coaching today, his staffs would be bigger. Would they be as big as some of them that we're seeing? I don't know. But at the same time, again, I don't make too much of it. That's the reason why I love the HBC, man. He gives it like it is.
For sure. I was listening to Rob Browne's show, SEC's Sidelines, today, and he had a guest on. I think he was from Alabama, and the comment came up about Spurrier saying what he said, and how his comment centered mostly around having so many people. He said, I just couldn't do it that way. And as Shane Matthews said, that's just not the way he does it. It's not the way I would do it if I was about. That's how Nick Saban did it and how Billy does it, whatever. It's just different. And one of the guys said, well, here's the thing about Coach Spurrier. He said he wouldn't need anybody. All he needs to have is a defensive coordinator. That's all he needs on his staff.
He'd be coach quarterback. He'd be called to play.
Right.
He wants some guys helping him recruit and coach defense. And you're right that he would cut down on some of the people, I'm sure. Yeah. But he'd also probably have some people he'd never imagined, too.
Yeah. But anyway, so that's going on, and it's going to be out there for a while. And if he didn't have pom-poms and, start cheering. Listen, this morning or last night, I got accused by a couple of people of being negative. So I talked to Shane about it, and Shane said he's getting tired of negative talk and people calling it. I get it. So this morning on Shane's show, I can't open up my show with "Don't worry, be happy." Don't worry, be happy. I'm changing my attitude, and I'm going to be Mr. Nice Guy and get my pom poms out. Because evidently, if you don't share the pom poms, you're a negative dude. So I don't want to be a negative dude. So anyway, so that's how it goes. But listen, here's a little something positive. How about this final score? 105-87. The Gators put a whooping on the Alabama Crimson Tide tonight at the O-Dome. Scott, you watched it.
Tell you what, man, that was maybe the most impressive start to finish performance of the season. Alabama hadn't lost back-to-back games all year. 105 points for the Gators. I just thought what I loved most about it, buddy, so much of the conversation about this team this year, blowing some second-half leads. They didn't give Alabama a chance to get back into that game in the second half tonight. That was the message from the start from Todd Golden. You heard it on the broadcast if you're watching that. His message at 2 p.m. during the shoot-around. Let's get these guys down and let's keep them down. And I just really like the way this team's playing right now. So now they're going to go up to Nashville and see what kind of noise they can make up there. But I could tell you after tonight's performance, there'll be a lot of people looking at Florida in a little different light because, you beat a team at Alabama that's pretty good. You just beat them by 20 points or so and never really gave them a chance. So, it's just definitely a nice win. And who knows, buddy, wouldn't it be nice if one day we're talking about how you remember everybody always refers to Alabama before the 2009 SEC championship turned the tide in the rivalry.
For sure. Here's our man from Exact Tech Arena. If he can hear us, he's on his phone calling in. Franz, can you hear us okay? Hello, Franz. Can you hear us okay?
Yeah.
All right. Give us, since we're going to lose you in a second, go ahead and give us your take on tonight's game. A lot of points. I'm here. Go ahead. Let's hear your take.
Hello.
Go ahead, Franz. We're here. Can you hear us? We're talking to you. Go ahead and talk. Well, Franz is obviously not here. He's live from the Exact Tech Arena, trying to call in a little report before the. He's trying one more time. Let's try one more time. See if we can get him right. All right, Franz, if you can hear us, go ahead and give us your take on the game tonight. Franz, go ahead and tell us what you saw. I don't guess we're going to be able to get you, Franz. We're talking to you, but you can't hear us. Call us back later if you can. Are you there, Franz? If you can hear us, Franz, go ahead and give us your take on tonight's game, okay? Not going to be able to hear you, Franz. I'm sorry. We can try later, hopefully. All right, so go ahead, and we're going to bring second ring Rob Browne here. Go ahead and let's finish up our thought about Spurrier, about the negativity. And here's the thing I wanted to ask you. And you've seen this before. If you can hear us, Franz, start talking. Tell us what you saw. Not going to be able to hear you, Franz. Can't hear you. So thanks for trying. A team winning like the basketball team, can that carry over to the other programs? That's the question, Scott.
Well, it's pretty hard. I think you don't see it very often. But I think what it does is, it just builds some positivity. When you're talking about negativity, well, you win with one of your big programs like men's basketball and baseball is going to be pretty good. So now you're looking at some momentum in the two of the three big sports, and hopefully that does carry over some to football. But it doesn't necessarily. It's not a direct line always, buddies. You know how it works. Looks like Franz is back.
Well, I'm going to give him one more try. Franz, if you can hear us, go ahead and talk and tell us what you saw tonight, and we'll just listen to you. If not, we'll try again.
I can hear you now. Can you hear me?
Yes. Give us a report on what you saw tonight.
Well, a very physical game, and I think Alabama got frustrated, an awful lot of fouls. Florida shot, I think, 46 free throws in the game. But here's the thing. Alabama tried to make it a physical game, and Florida responded. I thought that the officiating reflected the frustration the officials had with the tenor of the game. I really did. But anyway, Florida played like a top 5 team. Florida's defense in this game was just superb. Alabama was like 5 for 25 from the 3-point line, and they lived there. The key, buddy, and Mark, and sorry, my brain's fried here.
Rob,
the key is the fact 5 and 10 from the 3-point line. They're using 30. But when you're forcing a team that lives on the 3-point line, off the 3-point line, you're playing really, really good defense. And Florida did that. Florida survived the ration fouls against them too. Okay? The fouls went both ways. And did a better job getting their fouls in the paint. And getting them fouling. I mean, goodness. Really good to see what Richard Reed today playing a solid game. They're going to need him to play well moving forward. They're 21 wins now. This is their 4th quad one win. They were number 6 on Minardi's bracketology. This will keep them at 6. It'll move them probably at least to a 7, probably to a 6 if you carry the ball. They beat Vanderbilt on Saturday.
All right, Franz. Well, thank you. Appreciate it. We just can't hear enough of that. I got most of that, and obviously Florida did play a physical game. Let's bring Rob in here and say hello to my hand, Scott Carter. I know you probably watched some of this game, although he's an Auburn guy, but he follows everything there from SEC Skylines. Rob Browne, say hello, Scott Carter, Rob. You there, Rob? Okay, this is on our night for technology. Not
Hey, here we go. Hey,
all right.
I'm back.
Yeah. All right.
Sorry, I had the mute button on there, but
That will
hey,
do it,
Scott,
yeah.
Enjoyed watching y'all and listening. I know Franz was trying to come on board. I watched that Florida game. I thought Florida would win big tonight. I took the Gators to cover. I was like, you look at 200-day moving averages on stocks for the breakout points. About 3 weeks ago, when they pounded Auburn, just jackhammered Auburn, they were the leading rebounding team in the country. And Florida's just look. Nobody's blowing Florida out. Had a loss the other night at South Carolina. Didn't go well, but that loss on the road at Alabama said everything you needed to know and showed everything you needed to know about Florida. They're a very well-coached team. They're talented, really talented, and they're one of the teams that a lot of people are going to pick to make the Sweet 16. And beating Alabama like they did tonight, 105 points, is just that further proof of that.
Physically, as Franz points out too, Scotty.
Yeah.
They match their physicality, and I'm so impressed with those bigs, Scott and Rob. And this kid's Henroten and Hoff, those guys are such good athletes for big guys. And as long as the guards can keep it together, and tonight they did. They didn't turn the ball over, and the young guys stepped up. They've got some depth on this basketball team, Scott. This is a deep bench. If that helps at all during the SEC tournament coming up and/or tournament play, it's going to be a plus for Scott, for Todd.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, I think when he looked at last year what transpired, he knew he had to add some size, and he went out and got it. Because last year, once they lost Colin Castleton, there just wasn't much there for them to go to inside offensively and defensively. So, mixing in Samuel and Condon, I really like Condon. He's just I think an intriguing
What an
player.
athlete. Wow.
Yeah, so they just have that good inside-out mixture, and I kind of agree with Rob. I think a lot of people, a win like tonight will it'll get some more people on the bandwagon, and I won't be surprised, if they go up in Nashville, and as long as they go up there and win maybe a couple of games, they don't necessarily have to win it, but there'll be a lot of people, looking at Florida as a potential dangerous team in the tournament.
Yeah, I think that's what Rob was saying too, and so it's fun to watch a team get better, and it's fun, and this team is getting better. It's funny, they lost such a heartbreaker at South Carolina. Could have taken the steam out of them. They have that 3-point shot made on the buzzer to put them in overtime and lose the game, but then come back. So it's going to be an interesting March and April. And what happens also in March, Rob, in addition to basketball, is spring football.
Yeah.
And there is some talk going around, and we started the program by saying this. I want to just lean on you guys for a second. Talking about how sensitive people get about criticism. If you say something about a team that's not positive, you don't have pom-poms on. I went from being called Mr. Sunshine Pumper to being Mr. Negative. I've been called several days. So it's interesting. If you don't pump sunshine, I guess maybe you do. I'm going to play for you guys a little bit of the Spurrier thing. I think you might have played some on your show today, Rob.
Yeah.
If I can find it, and get your take on what he says. All right, stand by for a second. Over the weekend, we had a little news coming in here and there, and people talking about what's going on in Gainesville and with the Gators and with the head coach. And a lot of information gets passed around. you wonder sometimes where it all comes from, and you wonder exactly how accurate it is. But one guy who's never backed down on what he said, thus as I've known him, is Steve Spurrier. The coach, there was some comments over the weekend that were attributed to you, which you didn't back down from. But I think you said you'd like to clarify these. You like me to read some of these comments first?
Yeah, go ahead and read a couple of them.
All right. So, said Billy Napier is a good guy who works his tail off. I like Billy, good family man, but we do wish the organization was a little bit more tidy. There's a feeling around the Gators of what the heck are we doing? There's a lot of questions that don't have the answers to.
Okay.
Did you say that?
I probably did. What I did say is what most of the fans are saying. I think that's the bottom line. I'll go ahead and I may say something like that. But, nowadays, almost all of these SEC football programs have 40 to 50 or more people working there. I think we got 62. I think we got more than anybody. So that would drive me crazy. I just mentally don't think you need that many, but all the schools seem to have just about that many. So maybe that's the new thing nowadays. And if you got 60 or so and you're winning big every year, then no one would say a word about that, I guess. But anyway, that's just me talking about too many people around. But most schools have it, so maybe that's just the way it is nowadays.
It does seem like it's hard enough to keep up with a 3-deep roster, let alone with a 3-deep roster and a coaches as well. I guess, like I say, so many nutritionists and strength conditioning. Of all the changes he's made, and by the way, there's got a new guy in, the offensive line coach over the weekend. I believe his name is DeCoster, former Louisiana player. He'll be the other offensive line coach. So clearly now he's not going to have a special teams coach. I know we all have our opinions about that. What's yours?
Yeah, I've done it both ways. We've spread out the special teams with actually the guys on the staff, not grad assistant coaches or anybody like that. But, our linebacker coach, I know Jim Collins, he had the punt team all the time. And I remember we were playing South Carolina back in, I think it was 2000, and they blocked 2 punts in a row on us. I said, Jimmy, do we have a fake punt? We were on our own 20-yard line. He said, Coach, the only thing we have is the punter runs around left end. I said, call it. And we were down 21-3. They ran around left end for the first down, and we went down and scored. And we scored 28 points in the second quarter to go up at halftime 31-21. And I think we ended up winning 41-21 or something like that. But anyway, our assistant coaches did it. And grad assistants helped out, of course, but they sort of had their name on it. And then other times I had a guy in South Carolina, that's all he did. So he was special team coordinator in charge of all of them. So he had all the sheets and the numbers and the players that are on. And, if it looked like it's 3rd and long, he'd have that punt team ready to go and things like that. So there's different ways to do it.
Well, he's always got a good story, doesn't he? He called fake punt twice. They scored, and he came back away. So there's a little view from Coach Spurrier. The reason I played that was that's still going on. Now, some people got angry. I wouldn't say angry, curious as to why he was negative. And he's been saying all the time that he didn't think that's the way he would do it. And no time did he personally attack Billy. But, of course, people don't like that. And anyway, so I want to get your guys' take on that and say that he called me today and said, I went on Pat Dooley's show today and I picked him to win 9 games. So they can't call him Mr. Negative. He picked Florida to win 9 games this year. Rob, what do you think of that?
I don't see him winning 9 games. I don't see Auburn winning 9 games this year either.
I think that's really irrelevant to how many he picked. I mean, just the fact that he did it when he did it,
I like what he said, though. And I think I respect Steve Spurrier. I've watched him for a long time. Y'all know him. But he's right. These look at the basketball arenas. Look over on the sidelines in a basketball game. You got 3 deep seating for assistants, trainers, managers, psychiatrists, safe spaces. It's just ridiculous. Colleges are spending money now like the federal government. It is insane. And I'm with Steve Spurrier. I would condense it down, but you look at athletic departments everywhere. They're hemorrhaging with money. And then they're beating the fans over the head with a 2x4 for NIL, priority seating, and all like that. You watch. A couple of things are going to happen. You're going to start seeing more head coaches say, I'm done with this spit show. I'm out of here. I'm going to go take an assistant job in the NFL because think about this. These guys, they have all these support people, and they still can't get it right. There's too many cooks in the kitchen. I'm with the head ball coach. He's exactly right. I mean, exactly right. I just agree with him.
Scott?
Yeah, I mean, I'll kind of just reiterate some of what I said earlier, with what he said. I understand what he was saying. I know he was going to create a little stir with a certain segment of the fan base. But at the same time, I mean, that's why I love Steve Spurrier. I mean, he is who he is. He says what he believes. I love that. And, we've talked about this, buddy, and the first time I've talked to Rob or met him, but I agree with a lot of what he says. I mean, I've seen just like the UAA's grown significantly in my time around, and sometimes you wonder, wow, what does everybody do here? And it's no different in a football program. I mean, there's a lot of people in these programs. You're like, do we really need all those people?
Yeah.
And I know something that other people ask too. It's just the way the setup is right now. It's because they've got the money to do it. But I think we all know, guys, that the model is going to be changing drastically within probably a couple of years. And I think you're going to see some of that money need to be directed to the student athletes, players, which that's fine. So it'll be interesting to see if it kind of shifts back the other way where more of that goes to the players, maybe some scaling back of the staffs, and you won't have to maybe ask your fans so often to help with NIL because we all know the money's there. I just saw the new deal that who was it? I can't believe the number. One of the conferences with Fox. I mean, the money is just. I keep thinking that bubble's going to burst, but it doesn't seem like it's there yet.
Yeah, I see us going on a football Saturday at Jordan-Hare or at the Swamp or at Bryant-Denny Stadium. They're going to start having the offering. You're going to have ushers going up and down the aisles, passing the hat around, collecting money like in church. That's where we're going. And I'll predict within 2 or 3 years, we're going to have half as many sports as we do now. A lot of them are just going to go to club level sports. That's just what's going to happen.
Yeah, I'm with you. That I hear what you're saying, and there are people who agree with you on that. I had a conversation with Freddie Weeby today, and I'll have him on my show probably tomorrow a little bit. And Scott, you know him. I don't believe Rob knows him. Maybe he's heard of him.
I've heard a lot, and I've listened to him. That guy is one of the smartest people I've heard. He is tip of the spear when marketing, and he knows how to win at everything he does. I want him on my show. Brendan said he could help me make that happen. I love this guy. I don't know him,
I talked to him today. He wants to be on your show. But Freddie is unusual. I've known Freddie for a bit, and I watched him build that Spurrier from the ground up. And I watched the unbelievable detail he went into and the passion and the hard work that he put into it, And when they came to him and asked him, the collective down there, Florida Victorious was having, to say the least, troubles. And they went and asked him, and he was the only guy I could think of right now, to be honest, who might be able to do something like that. And so Freddie agreed to do it. When he agrees to do something, he doesn't leave a stone unturned. And we talked this afternoon about it, and I'm telling you stuff probably shouldn't be on the record, but anyway, I said, Freddie, he said to me, buddy, what are the things I face here? What are the things should I be thinking about? I said, I don't know, Freddie, but one thing that bothers me, and I want you guys to weigh in on this, and I want to hear from our friend Loren Meadows, who's waiting in the shadows there to come on. I said, to me, you're in danger zone of right now because you're talking money, 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 money. Now, if you've ever gone to church, there comes a Sunday or a week where they talk about tithing, all right? And it's really uneasy for a lot of people to hear about that. And you'll hear people say, why they always want our money, money, money? Well, it takes money to do things. I get that, but there is that perception I said, Freddie, maybe they feel like you got their hand in their back pockets. They've given, and some of these families don't have the money, and they feel like, well, the rich guys get all the breaks and all the attention. I've been going up to the games for 40 years, and I've put 8 kids in. I mean, there's a perception and feeling that maybe they're not loved as much. And Freddie said a really brilliant thing, and I'll just say it now. I was going to announce my show. He said, we don't want just your money, okay? We want money, and we don't want that much money. We're not asking for thousands of dollars. How about 15, And he said, we want to also you to be loyal to the Gators. And there's a word you don't hear now much anymore. Rob, we've talked about it a lot, loyalty.
Yeah.
And you like to feel that maybe the universities that we love so much, Scott, where we went and we covered them and we went to school, educated there, that they care about something besides money. And I think that is the peril they have right now. How do you get that across? You got to say we want money without saying we want money, Scott.
Yeah, and it's you're right. I don't know how exactly you do that because it does seem like it's been all about money for the last 2 or 3 years, and I'm not just talking about at Florida. I'm talking about everywhere. And all these the big schools, the Power 5 schools, the one that truly have the money, those I think are going to be okay with the new system, regardless of how it shakes out. But like Rob said, a lot of these mid-majors and smaller schools, I mean, I think you are going to see a whole new landscape emerge because they're not going to be able to support a lot of stuff. And I mean, everything else costs more too these days, guys. I mean, I don't have to tell you guys go out to eat. You guys go to the grocery store. I mean, everything's more right now. So I understand where the fans are coming from. I hope that we do move into an era that has more clarity than what we've been living in really since July of 2021. I think it's going to be good for everybody, and I hope there's some stabilization that comes. But is all this just a pipe dream of hope? It may be. I don't know if we've crossed the line. You can't go back. I don't know how it's going to look, guys. I just know it's got to look different, And I think a lot of that does go back to kind of reigniting some passion from those loyal fans because, man, there are a lot of loyal fans out there, but I don't hear as often from some of those as I used to.
Yeah. Evening to Loren Meadows. Loren, how you doing? Say hello to Rob and
hey, Loren.
Scott.
How you guys doing?
Good. I'm going to get your take on this in just a second. I want Rob to weigh in on that, and then I'm going to give us our pay a bill here, come back, and I want to go around Robin a little bit about if you were telling Freddie Weeby or Florida Victorious the best way to approach things to get the result they want, what would you tell them? I want to know. So go ahead, Rob.
I think he's right. You go like every home football game is basically a giant shareholders meeting for Florida Gator football or Tennessee or LSU. You want everybody to feel like they're invested. You cannot make money in the stock market unless you are invested in the market. I always tell my clients, said, if you get mad at me when your money that I'm managing and my team is managing is down, the market's down 1,000 points, do me a favor. Take a check, sign it, tape it to a brick, and throw it through my window, and I will put it in the market for you. The market's going to correct is what's going to happen. And Loren made a reference a couple of weeks ago on this show. He's very smart. He's a college athlete. I don't know if Scott played or not, but Scott knows what he's talking about, and you damn sure do as well. The market will correct. In the late 90s, early 2000, nobody needed a financial advisor. Y2K was coming. An 8-year-old kid could throw darts at the wall and pick stocks. So we were told. And then March of 2000 came. NASDAQ went from 5,000 to 1,000. The Dow plummeted. Listen, it happens. It's always darkest before dawn. We're seeing the market correct itself, but you better reach out to the fans. You better tell the guy that's giving you $5, $25, or 1,000 or $1 million. There's only a handful of big donors. Make them all feel part of something. Everybody wants to know, once somebody is invested financially, the negativity that y'all were talking about, the people that you hear calling shows and smashing and cussing, and they're not your season ticket holders. The people you want, Freddie Weeby's right. Make these people feel a part of something and tell them how much you appreciate them. orangeandbluebloods.com. Who owns college football, buddy? You're right. It's the fans. Don't forget remember who brung you to the dance. That's what Coach Dow always said. Don't forget that. Make it fun again. That's what I'm saying.
Dance for the one that brung you. Okay, we'll let Loren get his in there and get his take us here. Let's pay a bill first right here, and we'll be right back with these four guys: Loren Meadows, Rob Browne, Scott Carter. Terrific roundtable discussion on, of all things, money. Jeffrey Meldon. Jeffrey, you do a show where you ask a lot of questions. I've got one for you right now, okay, regarding how do you know whether your case is being handled right and what to do about it. In medicine, you can get a second opinion if you're not satisfied with the doctor's opinion that they have. And do you have that in law? Can you do that with lawyers?
Yeah, buddy. As a matter of fact, we get quite a few calls from folks that have signed up, particularly with the big box law firms, that they do a hell of a good job of putting ads on TV, but after that, they don't really measure up to the way we try to create a client experience that's outstanding. And we're always willing to review a case and give a second opinion, just like with a doctor, because not all law firms are created equal.
I guess that's the normal thing. Just go to Meldon Law, Google it, and find out, and just give them a call. And like you say, if you come in, you get to see a Meldon. You don't get shuffled off to somebody else. You get to see a Meldon, and that's good to know, because a lot of people don't know how to do that stuff, like me. And maybe you can coach us through. So Meldon Law, they won't back down. They will take your questions about your case if you have a question.
Yes, whether it's a new case or an existing case, give us a call. We'd be glad to go over it with you. There's no charge to review your case with you. And a lot of times it makes good sense just to get a second opinion.
All right. Thanks very much. Appreciate it. All right. We're talking on these four gentlemen. By the way, I want to mention that we appreciate all of our sponsors, not the least of which is Meldon Law and Titan MRI, a fine group of people who have North Central Florida's premier independent diagnostic testing clinic. And they want you to know that Titan MRI is now open and serving the greater Gainesville and North Central Florida area, focused on you, the patient. Great customer service. They'll be able to make appointments for you outside the regular times. You have a busy life. And they have regular business hours, but they can be available for evenings or weekends if you need to be there. Their equipment's modern, and they have one of the largest bores or openings of any new or higher strength MRI units in the country. So check them out. Go to their website, TitanMRI.com. Find out how you can make your own appointment and get your MRI needs taken care of. All right, guys, we're talking. We had Rob, as he sees sidelines, a really good program. We've got some guy named Martin on there and does it every now and then. Scott Carter does a terrific job of and FloridaGators.com, longtime friend. Loren Meadows is the coach, we call him. He's contributes in all ways, including writing and broadcasting. Loren, it's your turn. Step up to the mic and tell us about the money issue and how they should approach it. How's your Freddie Weepy do it?
Well, I mean, I'll take it this way. I don't want to necessarily say what Freddie and Florida Victorious should do, but what I will say is I think the messaging has been skewed since day one at the University of Florida. And what I would encourage them to do is kind of walk back and start from scratch and truly engage the messaging. Because right now what you have is everybody that's involved, particularly at the University of Florida, feels like the reason that University of Florida is not winning football games is because we don't have money. And I think that that's something where if you're seeing that, well, the only way to get the best players is to pay. And then people say, well, for what we get on the field, I'm not giving any money. I think it needs to be addressed in a way that people truly understand this NIL, where the money goes, where it comes from, what it's being used for. And I think then you can kind of start to have some dialogue and really get everybody involved. I think somebody said, and you could correct me if I'm wrong, Rob, if you know this. I mean, like Ole Miss's collective, I think they have two. And it's like 1,000 people per collective. Now, obviously, everybody's not giving, 10, 50, 10,000, 50,000. They're giving 5, they're giving 10, they give it, and really get everybody involved. Like you said, Rob, invested in the program as a whole. So, I think that's the biggest thing is scrap it down, reemerge with better messaging. And I know that Florida, the football program, cannot be involved in these NIL deals, but getting the Florida football team to maybe open up a little bit and allow for some of these Florida victorious opportunities, some of these things to really engage the fans so they really kind of see the fruits instead of just sending $5, $10 and you get a little virtual meeting or things like that. Give them something tangible that they could touch, that they could feel for these corporate sponsors, have events, things like that, and make it mandatory for these players to be there, to be present, and really, like Rob said, get everybody bought into the program. So that's just what they should do. I'm just telling you what I hear in circles and things like that. And a lot of big money people really have no idea truly how this thing works. And I think, Florida is a point where really open the dialogue and engage people to get this thing going.
All right, Loren, thank you.
Yeah.
I know you guys got to, if you go make a comment, go ahead. I don't want to keep people too long. Scott, if you got to go.
I was just going to say that Grove Collective at Ole Miss has 11,000 members.
Oh,
we were in Oxford. Yeah. And they've got, but and it's a lot of populist people giving. It's like IPTAY that started at Clemson in 1934. I pay $10 a year. Well, some people back in those days, believe it or not, had to finance that $10. And my dad was born in 1928. He's like, boy, don't be laughing. He goes, we really had to do that. But no, all of y'all, the more you get the fans, if you've got a guy that's given $5, here's what I've learned. Some of the biggest accounts I've ever had as a financial advisor started out with one small trade because they're just kicking the tires. They just want to see if you're going to treat them right, okay? So that guy that gives you better hold the door open for the lady or the man coming in your office because you never know when they're going to win the lottery. You may think that they're just scrubbing toilets or sweeping the floors or whatever. Treat people like you want to be treated yourself. You do that, you're going to get that collective on fire. Florida, I say it every show. You're on a gravy train with biscuit wheels. You have everything. That's a great line Ernie McCracken used in Kingpin describing Roy Munson, the great bowler. But I'm just saying, Florida has I am telling you this as an Auburn man. I hate not playing Florida every year, but that is a program when you get the right people there. And from what I know about Freddie Weeby, he's as significant a hire as it was when they brought back Steve Spurrier in 1990. I really think, from everything I know about him and his background as a money raiser, the guy just gets stuff done. He wins. It's just what he is. And he's just like Steve Spurrier.
Except he didn't give up his day job either. He's doing both of them.
Calculated. That's the thing. Freddie's very calculated. He does his research. You look at the success of his restaurant. It's not just because there's Spurriers at the top of it. Buddy, we did that tour and heard all the market research and things like that. That does not happen by accident. And I do think they'll be able to apply some of that to the collectives as well. So,
yeah. Scott, I wanted to get your take on this. And I know if you have to go, I know you have an early morning, I understand, but we're going to be here for a few minutes. And if you have to drop out, let us know. But Freddie said something also. Have you all heard that? You see the tweet in social media a couple weeks ago? Florida's broke. Did y'all see that? Several advertorials have been tweeting that out. Florida's broke. So Freddie volunteered this and have him on the show again tomorrow night. But I said, Florida's not broke. Florida's top 11 in the country in terms of raising money. Okay? Yeah. So that's one thing that's got to be corrected. People do have money, and Rob, as you said, they have the money. They have to have the incentive to do it. I don't know the answers of how to get them to do that, Scott, exactly. I do know that it seems to me, and Rob, you said, better treat them nice. The guy opening the door now, is a $5 a year donor, maybe a $500,000 donor one day. So, you guys heard of Bill France?
Yeah.
Remember Daytona Beach?
The founder of NASCAR.
Yes. Okay. I'll tell you a story about Bill France. A friend of mine told me. I have a friend of mine. He was my catcher in high school, and his family has had a jewelry store in downtown Ocala for 100 years. And Teddy, his wife, told me this story the last couple of years. She said she used to, in the store, this guy would pull up on an old car and get out and walk across the street and just look like average, everyday working clothes, jeans, whatever. Walk in, come in, and ask to be shown around some of the jewelry. And some people go like, well, that guy can't afford this, So he'd come back and he'd come in and he'd check out a couple of rings there, and he'd leave, and and he'd come back in a couple of weeks later, and he kept coming back in. People would wonder, what are we doing to waste our time with this guy? It was Bill Franz, and he pulled out a wad of cash and bought a ton of jewelry, and was a great was a great customer for many years. But that was his look. He wanted to be underplayed. He didn't want to be a big flashy guy with diamond rings, but he loved jewelry for his wife. So you never know about that guy. All right, so Scott, your thoughts about that, Florida being I guess a rich school, right?
Yeah, I mean, Florida, I don't think has any financial woes. I mean, I don't know what the exact number of the endowment is, but when I saw it one time, I'm like, whoa, that's a lot of money. And I'm not a money guy, but what I do know, guys, is that I feel like, putting guys like Freddie Weeby in place, and even some of the when when Florida Victoria started, it was a different leadership, people with financial backgrounds. If I was the head of Florida Victorious, it probably wouldn't be very good because I don't know about how to raise money. That's not my what I do. But I can tell you a guy like Freddie does. So I think that's a huge step right there, getting a person like him in position to make an impact on the organization. And so I think they're taking some good steps there. It also goes back to some of what Loren was talking about. I think it's a re-education of the Florida fan base on what this is and what they want it to be, and feel and make that connection. Because again, we talked about loyalty earlier, guys. The only way you really create loyalty is making people feel like they're part of something bigger than themselves with a shared connection. So I just think it's been a rough couple of 2.5 years in this new era. But I don't think in any way is like Florida's broke or can't have a successful NIL operation. I think they're fine financially. It's just a matter of, education and getting some people on board and really some transparency too. I think as this thing evolves, college sports, I think we're going to look at this maybe within 5 years, guys. We're going to know how much guys are getting paid. It's going to be like contracts in the NFL. I mean, it's going to have to be that way for these people to feel like giving their own money, right? I mean, it's not like the NFL where the owners have all the money. They're not, except the Packers, aren't they a publicly owned company? But
they are.
I think college fans are probably going to want a little more transparency, and you might have to do that,
Has to get fired for not performing too. So that's the way it is in the real world. Be careful what you ask for. Yeah, I wanted to just finish the thought by saying it's just an unknown time. There's so much we don't know, and so much we're trying to learn, and it's hard. And I hear things every day. Like the most recent thing was the 14-team playoff, which we kind of wondered about, scratched our head, and think, well, that's something new. I wonder what that means. Not realizing the implications it could have. And when you read deeper into it, I think Pat Forty did it later and found out they were talking about the Big Ten and SEC making a deal where they would basically seed their teams, in top places and be guaranteed so many spots, and how that would turn out. I mean, so many things. It's like I said the other day to my friend, Edgar Thompson, who's a really good reporter. I just can't keep up, buddy. Edgar wants to know everything about everything going on, and it's hard to keep up. It's hard to understand. So I think a little love would go a long way right now, Rob, for people to say, hey, we're Gators, okay? Like I had an idea. I was talking to one of my friends about a sponsor. What's the definition of a real Gator? I know it sounds like a Homer comment, but what is the definition of a real Gator? Like when I say he's a real Gator, she's a real Gator, who comes to mind for you? What person's picture pops in that frame? And it's not always, I'm sorry, Mr. Condon, it's not always you, There's some little people who've done some great, and we had this conversation the night, so I said, Bud Fernandez. You can think of names of people that you've known have been great Gators. People have, Mr. Tubitz, he never got a nickel out of any of this stuff, right? Yeah. And if we started thinking more about the real Gators, the authenticity Rob of the Auburn Tiger, and Loren's a guy that comes from the outside in. He wasn't even from around here. He came from Dayton because he was in love with the Gators. He couldn't wait to meet Steve Spurrier. He almost tackled him today. I took him into the restaurant. he would have been even so bad. So we're coming from different perspectives. Rob, you from Alabama and Auburn, Memphis, and Loren, you from Ohio, but you've always been a Gator fan. Of course, Scott and I grew up with it. So let's hear from you two guys. Well, I just said a lot, but the authenticity of the Gator sure seems to make a difference, Loren.
Yeah, I mean, I think you had to be. I mean, you got to be all the way in. I think that you get a lot of lip service sometimes for people, and I mean, just like in any sport, you can be involved, you can support, and it doesn't cost you a lot of money. You can buy a berm seat at baseball for $5. You can buy a berm seat at softball.
And Rob, by the way, Rob does this, just so you know.
You can be involved. You don't have to. You can be involved in football and things like that. And I just think that a true Gator is somebody that, I mean, you bought into the entire thing, the academics of the school, the atmosphere of University Drive and Gail Limerick Drive, and just everything that's involved. And I mean, we wanted to be here in Gainesville. We moved here to be around the Gators. And, it's funny. I had somebody tell me, and it really offended me, because I've spent a lot of money, but I've also given a lot of my time and things like that to Florida. And somebody had the nerve to tell me, well, you haven't been around that long. You don't know anything. I said, first of all, I'm 50 years old. I've been around quite longer than people think. But my favorite quarterback is Shane Matthews. So everybody's running around to meet Tebow and all those guys. My boy Shane is my dude. So I think that, just really understanding how this thing was built, understanding that, Florida has been up and down in a lot of sports and things like that, but they continue to put quality teams on the field. As much as I'm hard on Billy Napier, a couple bounces either way, Scott, you know this, and he wins 9 the last 2 years. I mean, and they haven't been very good. And yet, like Rob said, they got everything they need to 9-3 to death every single year. But people have to be, you got to be bought into that. And if you don't go, if you don't appreciate, if you don't accept, if you don't get out there in that atmosphere, I mean, Scott, I mean, a Saturday at KDC Soul Presley, Sunflower Saturdays, but it's like after football season, people walk away, and the rest of these student athletes need your support as well. So, get your blanket, buy your $5 berm ticket, support on, just it's all that,
Yeah, he speaks the truth. And here's a guy. How many people do this, Rob and Scott? He has a media pass in the press box. He's a working media person. He covers the football games. Yet he buys 2 tickets in the stands and sits in the stands, and then comes back with the press box and goes to interviews. Dude's got that. I mean, plus he's got a free meal.
There's another individual involved in that.
Well, yeah, of course. No, she's not involved in it. She bosses it.
In the other room there.
Yeah, for sure.
Happy life, happy wife.
Yeah, I go.
Correct.
All right, Scott, I kept you a long time. I don't know, Rob, if you can stay for a minute or not. I'd love to have you, Scott. If we had another 5-6 minutes, if you need to go, let us know. We understand.
Well, you're good. I'll hang.
Okay, all right, good. Appreciate that. Yeah, so I'm doing all the talking now. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Rob.
I was just going to say, like what Loren and Scott have just said, if you think about which of the 4 branches of the military, Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, is the least funded, the Marine Corps. Which is the smallest group, the Marine Corps. Which group teaches, on average, the Army and the Navy will teach you about 10 or 15 hours of your history in basic training in 13 weeks of basic. In the Marine Corps, in 13 weeks of basic, at San Diego Marine Corps Depot or Paris Island, 2 lovely places. My brother-in-law, Kurt, 26 years in the Marine Corps, 7 combat tours, famously said, I never got anything free from the United States government that I didn't pay for later. But which group teaches more about their history, their traditions, and the heroes? Marine Corps teaches about 100 hours of that in their basic training. It's pride. They have that T-shirt I've got. Pain is temporary, pride is forever. You've got to make people feel like they belong.
Okay,
and you know
we're
what?
signing up. Whatever we sign us up, we're ready to go.
But like Loren said, my mother is a graduate of Hollins College, a girls' school in Roanoke, Virginia, where my sisters both went. You can learn to balance a book on the top of your head and look good at parties. And no, it's crazy. They're very smart, but she loves Auburn. She has to be put in a padded room. She loves it so much. I love guys like Loren, who's from Dayton, Ohio. And he may know a little something about those UFO bodies in there in the hangar there at the Air Force Base.
Area B, that's right. Area B.
There you go. But that's exactly what I love. I love seeing fans, and I don't know if Scott is the Florida great. He probably is. I mean, he knows the Gators, but there are a handful like Chris Lee covers Vanderbilt and the SEC Southeastern 14. He's on our show on Tuesdays. He said, look, Vanderbilt's got that same 35 people they go to. They just blow off the rest of them. As a result, their fan base has shrunk down, he says, to about 8,000 people. We were at the Auburn-Vandy game November 4th. It was 90% Auburn. I was like, did they make this a home game? The Gator fans, people around the country think of Florida. They think of Naples, Palm Beach, Miami. No, most of the state of Florida, I've been all over that state a lot. It's just like Alabama and Mississippi and Georgia. Those folks love the same. They are hardcore. It's the 5th largest cattle state in America. People forget about Florida. It's the horse racing capital of the world. Horse racing is Marion County, as we put that graphic up every morning. Make these people feel like they're part of it. And don't shun people. I'm going to tell you something. You wouldn't believe the number. I'll never forget the biggest client I still have ever had. They showed up one day, and the girl up front came to me, and she goes, I think there's some homeless people here to see you. And I'm like, what? And I went up there, and it was them. They used to ride a tandem bicycle around with clothes they bought at the Scrounge Barrel or Goodwill, and they were worth millions. You never know. You've got to make people say, listen, man, you tell people every day. Scott Strickland, after the game, go out and tailgate with people, everybody, not just your biggest donors, because it's kind of a rising tide floats all ships. That's how these things are going to work. But it's getting like church. We're going to start having the long poles with the bucket to put money in at the games. They're going to start doing that, and that's when the fans are going to say, screw this. But Scott's also right. There's going to be transparency in the contracts. But I just want to get to where I know who the guys are on my team. We all grew up knowing who they were. I got a Pat Sullivan jersey that's actually in my truck right now that he autographed for me. He died December 1st of 2019, and Terry Beasley died 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, I saw that.
That's what got me hooked on football. I remember John Reeves. I remember Carlos Alvarez. I remember all these, I remember Wayne P. I remember the Florida team.
By the way, those 4 played against each other in freshman ball. I saw the game. Terry Beasley and Pat Sullivan and Carlos Alvarez and John Reeves. What a game that was!
Yeah, I mean, and that was, and I'm saying we remember those guys, and now who among us? Now we probably know them, but think about some 9-year-old kid. Does he know the starting lineup? Tackle to tackle for the Gators, offense and defense. You know that thing about the Book of Manning? When Peyton's in there going, he would listen to old cassette tapes of Stan Torgenson, the voice of the Ole Miss Rebels. He goes, Buddy Martin, the left tackle from Columbus, Mississippi. At right guard, Scott Carter from Itawamba, Mississippi. At the center, Loren Meadows from Gulfport, Mississippi. Starting, he knew that. I'm a savant, I guess. I still have a little white radio, transistor radio from when I was a kid, but I love what y'all are saying. Y'all absolutely get it about. You just got to make the fans, just all of them, feel like they're part of it. They may be given 5 or 10 or 25, but you get an army of people doing that populist movement, it'll work. And the players also, it would help if they told how much they love being at the school. That would be a big, big plus.
Or even liked it.
Say thank you.
There's a lot of good preaching.
They tell you how much they like it when they write their farewell letter. I love those. I'm leaving, but I love Florida.
But I love the Gators. I'll always be a Gator, but I got to go now.
With that being said, I'm leaving.
Yeah. But I love Gainesville. Love the Florida Gators.
Yeah.
You'll always
Sure
be in
enjoyed
my
being
heart.
there. Yeah. Don't let the door hit you in the ass on the way out. By the way,
Buddy, you had the funniest quote last year of anybody. Some Florida coach was leaving, and he said, "Well, I'd love to say I'm going to miss you, but I never knew you." Wasn't that Armstrong?
I can't remember. I mean, I talked to a guy yesterday. He's very frustrated. Great fan and astute fan.
Yeah.
A long time graduate of Florida and loves the Gators. And he talked about how I'm a Napier guy. I'm going to stay with him. I'm staying with the guy, whatever. He did say it would be nice if Scott Strickland would answer his letter he wrote a year ago up there. And this is a guy, a very thoughtful letter, and he's all Gators. He just wants someone to address his feelings. And it's very important that we address this thing of loyalty. You guys have been great tonight. It's like we go into church, and we'll let the Reverend Scott Carter, close us out with a thought tonight. But this is the kind of stuff we ought to talk about, not just the wins and losses and the deficiencies, etc. I think it's very important that we talk about these things. Scott?
Well, I don't know if I can follow Rob there. I think he's got a preacher, but he definitely has a radio voice too. But be honest with you guys, I'm not going to disagree with anything I've heard. But I thought playing off a little bit about what you guys were just talking about, and I think it all goes back, loyalty is a two-way street, right? And you guys hit it there. It's hard to feel invested. I was looking over the roster since Billy has been head coach at Florida. I counted 54 scholarship players that have transferred in those 2 seasons. A lot of them were leftover guys in the first season. So when you have that much turnover, and some of it was, natural attrition, but some of it you didn't really expect. So when you have that much turnover off the roster, it is hard to get to know these guys. But guess what? It's also hard to get to know the coaches. They come and go now like they're just, every job is just like a temporary place for them. I don't know. If they're married, I feel sorry for the wives because I would just put my wife in one city, say, honey, I won't be working about
I catch you on the flip-flop.
We'll just come back to every year. So anyway, it's just that time where I think there's got to be a little bit more stability in all facets. Great, some of what we talked about.
Yeah. I so appreciate these when we start calling them Tuesday night prayer meetings or something. This conversation takes place. I know we fancy ourselves as hardcore journalists and whatever, but the fact is there's a deep affection really about this program, about these teams, and about this game, and you guys are the very best among them. So thanks for sharing your innermost thoughts. And tonight, all three of you, I'm the fourth. And let's do it again sometime, all right?
Anytime. Thanks for having us.
Rob will be talking pretty soon about SECU, which is something we're trying to launch. We're going to try to educate ourselves as well as others about this new expanded league. A couple of teams in there we haven't seen before called Texas.
That one behind me there in the background. Feel like the weatherman trying to – there we go. Those guys.
Yeah, for sure. So,
I'm ready for it. Thank you for having me. I love being on with Scott and Loren and Franz when he was there.
He was there. He tried.
He tried.
Well, they played well tonight. I'll follow up for Franz. They played well tonight.
They did. And I was going to make a comment. That was a final score 105. What? I don't remember it now. But they won by a bunch, and I was scrambling to get on the air with it. And big win. Let's not forget that. That's 21 wins. They're sitting pretty. They need to go and have a good tournament. Get a bye, hopefully, and maybe win one game, right? You don't want to have to play the whole tournament if you can help it. In the SEC, they're going to be a seed. Franz was hoping they'd win tonight to get off that dreaded 8 line. He said that's the kiss of death, that 8 line. It's terrible. So maybe they'll do that now, and we'll see. So
I think they're on their way. And, like I said, at the way the program's been, if they – get to Nashville and get hot, and they're there on that Sunday night, I'd go ahead and the whole thing. Why not? It's been a while. So
what the heck? Sounds good to me. All right, Loren. All right, Scott. All right, Rob. Thank you so much, guys. Appreciate you very much.
You bet. Anytime.
All right. I'm going to tell our friends about our fine sponsors, and not the least of which is our friends at WinStar, who've been with us for a long, long time and have been sponsoring this show since it was just on the radio. They do great things. And, clinical trials, you heard about them, they exist today to bring new therapies to the public safely. And clinical trials would not exist without the commitment of you. The volunteers out there make it work. If you decide to participate in the one they have at WinStar Medical Research, and by the way, you can check out their website and their Facebook page. You might receive study-related medications and procedures at no cost to you or your insurance company. You may gain access to new investigational medications or devices that are not otherwise available and receive compensation for your time and travel. As a research site, WinStar Medical Research is dedicated to bringing new opportunities to participate in medical science in our local community. WinStar Medical Research, seeking tomorrow's answers to the health questions of today. Thank you to our guests. Franz Beard fought mightily and got in. He got a chance to give a report on the game. Of course, Rob. You hear Rob on SEC Sidelines to Brendan every day almost. Rob Browne. Our regulars, Loren Meadows, the coach, and of course, Scott Carter of FloridaGators.com. Thank them. Thank all of our sponsors. Have a good night, folks, and we'll catch you tomorrow night on the same time and same station.